I'm Dane Rose. Anyone paying attention notices the astonishingly high level of dishonesty, of disintegration, a lack of integrity, and insanity, inauthenticity in our cult, in our culture. And the question is, why are these traits in such high demand? Meaning, why is it that a large demographic of human beings in this cult cultivate inauthenticity, dishonesty, insanity, and unconsciousness? So the first thing to be aware of is we're in a paradigm of scarcity. And what I mean by that is that many of us as human beings, and many of those around us, have not met their basic human needs for survival, for security of survival, for love and belonging, for self-esteem, for the discovery and development of our greatest gifts and talents, the bringing those gifts and abilities out into the world, and the becoming part of something bigger than ourselves. We haven't met our basic human needs. And it's not because there isn't enough energy in the universe. There's a tremendous abundance of energy all around us. And so the question is competency. Do we have the competency as individuals, as a group, as a cult, to transform, to align, to synthesize, to turn the vast amounts of energy around us into a form in which every one of us not only meets, but generously meets our human needs, abundantly meets all of our human needs? And the answer speaks for itself. Every human being in the history of humanity has desired to feel sustainably better and desired to avoid feeling chronically worse. And so the gap between that desire and the felt experience of human reality is competency. We desire to meet our human needs, and many of us have not to one degree or another. And the gap between that desire and that reality can be measured in terms of competency, meaning we don't know how to do it. Now, if you don't know how to do something and you want to do it, you feel naturally helpless, naturally frustrated, and that doesn't make you feel very good, particularly if there's no roadmap from frustrated helplessness to competent success. And so when you can't or don't appear to be able to shift the reality, one of the directions can be to deny reality. So here we have a bid for insanity. Another is relabeling and lies, and here you have a bid for dishonesty. Another is to tune it out of mind. Let's just not think about it. And here we have a bid for unconsciousness. And we have bids for secrecy. We have briberies. Don't bring this up. Now, if Uncle Billy is paying half the month's rent and the family cannot survive without that half of a month's rent, And Uncle Billy is a bit of a pervert, a bit of a pedophile. The question is the pedophilia a bigger problem in the eyes of the parents that can't pay the full rent? Or is not paying the rent a bigger problem if Uncle Billy is sent packing? Now, in the hierarchy of human needs, where we have the fundamental need to survive and then feel secure in that survival, the rent may come first as a priority because it relates to survival, to security of survival. And self-esteem isn't so much of an issue if you're dead. And so the parents make a pact with themselves to not be too conscious of what Uncle Billy is doing with little Jenny from time to time. And they preach, being good cult members of a Christian cult, generosity, to always tell the truth. But they don't actually want to know this one truth because it makes them, it reminds them of their own helplessness. It brings up too big of, too much frustration, too much fear of survival and security. And so when Ernest brings up, what's Uncle Billy doing with little Jenny? Ernest is told to shut up, to be quiet, not to talk about that. The subject is changed. And if Ernest persists, because we're talking about truth and, integrity and all that, then maybe he's hit and sent to his room. Why? Because God loves him, of course. And so Ernest is asked to go insane to mask the insanity in the cult, to mask the insanity by which his sister is being molested, his parents are colluding with the molester for financial gain, and the truth is not welcome despite preaching virtues of honesty. Well, suddenly inauthenticity, dishonesty, insanity, because when Ernest raises a hand and says, what's going on? I thought you wanted me to tell the truth, and now you're punishing me for telling the truth. He's asked not to sass his parents, not to talk back, not to be rude. Why is he so ungrateful? Now, Ernest could say, why are you changing the subject? Are you evading the truth? Are you lying? But that'll get him hit again, or sent to his room again, or glared at and avoided, and no ice cream for Ernest on the next outing. In fact, he's not even invited on the outing. Instead, the other brother, Fred, who's going along with the insanity, who's telling the appropriate lies, who's focusing more on the facial expressions of mom and dad and agreeing not to bring things up. He's invited on the outing. So it's very clear that inauthenticity, that dishonesty, that lies, that insanity is actually valuable in this family system. Well, this is a microcosm of the cult dynamics at large. Racism, corruption, chauvinism, stupidity, abuse of power, sexual abuse, dishonesty, insanity, profound levels of stupidity surround us inside and out in a cult such as our own. But it doesn't make us feel good to say these things are all going on, number one. Number two, we don't know what to do about it. Number three, we'd rather not talk about it because we don't want to face that we don't know what to do about it. And so suddenly, highly positive people are in high demand. The people who will not rock the boat, who will go crazy, who will not say anything about the pink elephant in the middle of the room. These people are in high demand because of their deception, because of their collusion, because of their lies. But we don't want to acknowledge that because it reveals, again, incompetency that requires work and challenge to deal with. So instead, we're going to relabel all of these expedient, dishonest individuals as something noble, so that we don't have to look at the fact that we're rewarding lies and incompetency. And so in this environment of scarce resources, scarce because we are surrounded by people who have not securely met their human needs, with a presumption that with the level of competence displayed in the cult and among the adults around us, with the presumption that we're not going to be anytime soon. In that presumption, we then are in a scarcity mentality of fear, that we will not be loved, we will not get our needs met, maybe at all. And so the desperate searching for what is it that the cult desires, for what is it that mom and dad, the family system, desires, and giving them that, going crazy, becoming dishonest, becoming unconscious, telling lies, so that mom and dad will be happy and favor us amongst the limited resources of the few minutes a day of quality time a parent may spend with a child, to be the favorite child because we're willing to tell the most soothing lies. Well, in order to tell these lies, to go insane, to sublimate integrity, we have to murder, we have to participate in the eradication of the authentic, honest, transparent, and innocent self. And we have to replace it with a synthetic, an adaptive personality that adapts to the family system. This is, of course, a deep source of pain. But when we are denied survival, security, love, and belonging by the giants, if we don't cooperate with this protocol, it's far more painful, it's far more damaging, and so we go along with it. And in so many ways, we give birth to and breed the inauthentic self. Now, when we have children, they, of course, are still authentic. They're still connected with themselves. And in order to try and relate to that, the parent becomes aware of how phony they are, how dishonest they are in so many ways. And this is upsetting, and the child sees that upset in the face of the parent who maybe can't face the full extent of their own corruption in one way or another. And so seeing the scarcity around us, we're inundated by messages that there isn't enough, there's not enough love, there's not enough esteem, there's not enough money, there's not enough homes. I mean, you drive by wealthy neighborhoods and see homeless people. The message is clear. We don't have the competence necessary to provide for our own people. Well, if you're in that amount of scarcity, what do you have to do to be one of the ones who fits in. And I'm so glad you're willing to start lying, son, because now I feel better, because now we're both lying in the same way. So a child produces a lot of challenge for that, and to the cult system, and naturally screams, naturally is unhappy, naturally is confused, naturally wants to talk about all of these things that are very unpopular for the grown-ups, for the giants to consider, to discuss. And having learned that the only reason we survived, that the only reason we're still alive is because we lied, because we didn't bring up this secret, because we did not insist on the truth like Ernest did. There's a certain sense of fear, of trauma, of fear that we're going to die if we tell the truth. And this gets, deeply laced into our bodies, so that we feel a deep terror, a deep loneliness, deep fear of getting anywhere near the truth, anywhere near the unconsciousness that we've used to appease the hearts and minds of those who initially gave us life and kept us alive.